Welcome to the Assist Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, back with another episode, and joining me today is a man who is my boss in an organization, has known associates in the Mexican Mafia. It is Salvador Corona. Mr. Corona, how are you?
Good, how are you, Zach?
I'm not bad. I feel like I have to address you as like some senior title because of that.
Relationship between us. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Zach's my director, so that's why he said the boss thing. But yeah.
I was blessed to be selected by Sal after my mediocre interview. Sal, tell the people a little bit about yourself. Just a quick little intro.
So yeah, I'm like Zach said, his boss, vice president of AMSA. Studying basically the same thing as he is, pre-med, in the pre-med struggle, trying to become a doctor. The goal is to become a sports medicine physician. So as you can tell, I'm a big sports guy, mainly basketball. That's why we're here doing this podcast. I grew up in Florida, but like he said, I'm from Mexico. Connections to the mafia. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And a long-suffering Magic fan.
Oh yeah, long-suffering.
Long-suffering. So as you mentioned, we're going to get into the NBA trade deadline here, talk a bit about some of the major deals. I do want to start with a little caveat. We're not going to talk about Porzingis, maybe in mention, but that was a lot beforehand, and a lot of stuff did happen here. A lot of stuff in the East happened, so we'll talk about that. But before we get to the East, I wanted to bring up this trade is that the Clippers basically cleared room for two max stars in free agency by their deal for Tobias Harris. And the full deal, Sixers received Tobias Harris, Boban, Mike Scott, Clippers got Landry Shamet, a good rookie, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, who then I believe they flipped Muscala and waived Chandler, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. I think the Sixers overpaid.
You think so?
I think Harris is good, and he's actually been on both of our teams, which is another thing. You know, watching Harris, he was the centerpiece of the Blake Griffin deal last year for the Pistons, and I think he's good. Obviously, he's all-star level. I mean, he's a great for your starting 5, but I thought the Sixers needed some more depth, and they just went the other way and traded away a bunch of their guys. And I think for the Clippers, I mean, it was pretty clear from this deal, they're like, we're not going to sign Tobias Harris anyway.
I personally don't think they overpaid. I think they got exactly what they needed in Tobias. They needed a little bit more depth in their bench, but they got it through their other trades.
Right.
And I think for this trade, Tobias is going to be a perfect fit. And Boban, I think bringing him in with Tobias was even more important than just getting Tobias by himself. I don't know if you watched the last 2 games, especially yesterday's versus the Lakers.
Yeah, they killed him, didn't they?
They killed it, and that pick and roll action with Tobias and Boban is like really important to the way they're going to space each other, like themselves on the floor, especially with shooters like JJ Redick. Mm-hmm. I think they got exactly what they needed, and Tobias, more importantly, bring in Boban with Tobias in there. Right.
Yeah, I was going to say they have a famed chemistry throughout the NBA. Everyone knows about that.
Yeah, like with Boban, they got that 5 spot, the center they needed for their backup center, because they didn't have a true backup center. They had Joel, and who's their other.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. I just think it's interesting, especially because the Sixers dealt away Markelle Fultz. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. That this whole process, right? The whole process. I mean, you got Embiid, who is otherworldly. I mean, he's been playing so well recently. Ben Simmons, who, I mean, anyone else would take. And now you have Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, both guys who are excellent All-NBA guys, but are free agents in the summer. So it's just kind of interesting from that dynamic. It's like this is what it's resulted. And personally, I don't think the Sixers are the favorite in the East yet.
I don't think they're the favorite in the East, but they're definitely, I would say, the whole trust the process. They really expedited that.
Yeah.
2 years from now, or even a year from now, I wouldn't think they would be at this position to be like this strong in the East with the moves they've made. So they really moved fast. They're definitely a Eastern Conference Final contender.
Yes.
I don't know about NBA Final contender. They still need a little bit more. They're a young team, I would say. They need a little bit more maturity in them, but
yeah. I saw a clip of LeBron guarding Ben Simmons, quote unquote, because Simmons was around the 3-point line, bringing the ball up, and LeBron was just in the paint.
Yeah.
Just like, please shoot a 3, which was really funny. And I think for the Clippers, they think they're getting Kawhi.
They do. They think they're getting Kawhi. Now, I was going to tell you something. I was going to talk to you about something more when we got into more of the trades, but I guess we can go into it now. The Raptors getting Marc Gasol. How do you think like Kawhi sees that, like, oh, they're committed to winning, so they want me to stay here? or do you think he's still like no matter what happens in the season, he's leaving, going to the Clippers?
I think he bought a $10 million plus home in San Diego recently. And that's all I'm going to say.
No, you're right about that.
No, I think Toronto's really, really good. I do. I think the Marc Gasol move is a good one, especially with the fact that he could pick up his option next year. I believe it's in the range of $25 million player option for him next year, so he could also pick that up. I think it's an interesting move for the Raptors from the sense of, they're just pushing the chips in. I mean, Siakam is really good. He's really developed this year. Gasol can still do a lot of things. And they didn't give up a first-round pick for that. And so Kawhi's there, Van Fleet's there, Lowry, obviously. So I think they have a really strong team. Obviously, they've been going back and forth with the Milwaukee Bucks for most of the season. So I think it's interesting. I just think that unless they win, and I mean, if we're putting Raptors against the Warriors, especially with Boogie now being back, we're not really looking at the Raptors winning that. I just think a lot of it wouldn't necessarily shock me, like Paul George with Oklahoma City. It wouldn't shock me if he went back there because they do have that kind of culture and they've shown they're committed to that. But also part of it is just like, it seems like everyone's been talking about Kevin Durant in New York, and I think that's real. I think Kevin Durant going to New York is pretty real at this point.
I do too.
And so I think also just Kawhi going to LA, I mean, it's kind of like what happened with LeBron. It's like the Cavs made big trades, and then I said a while ago, before that happened, I was like, LeBron's going to the Lakers. Like, it's already happening. Like, he can make the finals and do whatever, but so I don't know if Kawhi's at that level, but I wouldn't be really surprised either way.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see that, and also you have to take in part, like, their personality, like Kawhi's personality versus other, like, big free agents that have made interesting moves like this. Mm-hmm. But as far as, like, looking, like you asked, looking at it from the Clippers standpoint, they set themselves up to get 2 big free agents this summer. And
they got 2 first-round picks out of it, too. So either way.
If they're really rolling the dice, and if for some reason they don't land these 2 free agents, they won't necessarily be in a hole. They'll still have, like you said, the first-round picks to kind of rebuild their organization from here.
Yeah, not like the New York Knicks, so it's like if they miss out on Kevin Durant and Kyrie, it's like, we got Kemba Walker and nothing else. Yeah, so talking about then the Bucks, I mentioned the Bucks, I think, won the deadline. They got Mirotic. I think Mirotic is a really good player, really complements their system well. Yeah. And I think they won the deadline.
I agree. Like you said, it complements their system well. The Bucks, they love shooting threes. And what is he? 3-point shooter.
Yes.
And he's going to... I think this was that missing piece they had to like space their floor even a little bit more than they already do. And this is a great move for the Bucks, especially making themselves a conference finals contender.
Yeah, I think they're the favorite.
Yeah. Now, like, making this move, and I feel, again, they're another young team, I would say, in a sense. Right. But they have some good veterans, and they have, like, there's a nice pickup with Nikola Mirotic. It's going to be really important to, like, balance their team out, I would say.
Yeah, because I know Giannis isn't the greatest shooter. I mean, if he was a great shooter, the NBA would be over because he's amazing. But now you can piece together a lineup with Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, Mirotic, and maybe Brook Lopez and Giannis. And Giannis is your guy that's playing center in that situation because Lopez is taking 6 threes a game or something like that now and making them. So there's the possibility that you can do that now. You can go to the Raptors. It's like, oh yeah, you just got Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol's 34. He's slow. Exactly. Like, go ahead, please try to mark Giannis like that.
And like you said, they could put Brook Lopez out shooting the threes, and to be honest, they won't even necessarily need to put someone down at center. Right. Because Giannis can be the point center for them. Like, exactly. Drive it up and kick it out to someone. Everybody's going to collapse on Giannis thinking whatever. Like, I think it's a really big move and probably the best move in the East. The East made big moves.
Everyone did, yeah. Except for the Boston Celtics, of course, who couldn't because they're saving their chips for an Anthony Davis-sized trade in the summer.
Yeah, and also, like, they couldn't because, like, the Kyrie, like, issues.
Such a weird rule.
Yeah, not a lot of people are aware that, like, why aren't the Celtics making any moves? Why aren't the Celtics making because they can't make any moves unless they move Kyrie, which they weren't going to do that.
Right. So it's like it's almost like a max rookie player extension is the deal. And the reason why they can't do that is because Cleveland had signed Kyrie to that deal. And Kyrie's still on that deal in Boston. Anthony Davis is also on that deal. So the reason they could do it in the summer is because Kyrie will opt out of his current deal. And if he were to re-sign with Boston, which is now a big if, then it would be a free agent kind of contract. So that's the legality of it, which is really... It added an interesting quirk to the deadline because the Lakers obviously were trying to push for AD, but the Pelicans held strong and said, no, we know the Celtics can offer a lot too.
Yeah. So as far as like Kyrie and the Celtics, if they don't land one of these big guys, I think Kyrie's out.
I agree. I think, the whole stuff that's been happening recently is kind of surprising. And I think if you put Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and dare I say it, Zion in New York, that's their plan. If New York has a plan, that's what they're trying to do. So that Porzingis trade makes sense if they have the wink with Durant. It's like we're pretty sure he was going to leave that situation. He's tired of Draymond yelling at him.
As an NBA fan, I want that to happen so bad. I remember back when the Magic were good, 7-8 years ago, the East was so good. It was like it was perfect. You could go like 6 teams were contenders for the finals easily. And then the West was pretty balanced too. Now it's like you see all the power, at least last year and like the beginning of this year, you saw all the power to the West, but now it's shifting more back to the East, so it's balancing out. Yes,
and there's a clear hierarchy, obviously. Yeah. The Pacers were maybe up there before Oladipo got hurt as well, and now they've obviously going to fall off a little bit. But one team that's kind of breaking the hierarchy here a bit, the Sacramento Kings. We talk about tortured franchises in the recent years for both of us. The Kings are in 9th place, a half a game behind the Clippers, and now the Clippers, who don't really care about making the playoffs.
Yeah, so now they're going to start losing some games. They're going to...
Exactly. They're competing. The Kings are competing alongside the Lakers. They're 3.5 games behind Portland, who's in 4th, and they traded for Harrison Barnes from the Mavericks over the trade deadline to pair with their young core of Marvin Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, who's having a breakout season. I love Fox at Kentucky, and I'm glad he's really starting to show up. And Buddy Hield, resurgence of Buddy Hield. So the Kings are really pushing for the playoffs for the first time in forever, and of course they don't have their first-round pick this year. It's going to Boston. So it makes perfect sense that they're going to push for this, and I love the Kings. The Kings are fun, and that's incredible.
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get their organization some excitement, because like you said, they don't have their first round pick, so they're putting all their chips into the playoffs, and I think that was a great move for them.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I feel like there's 6 spots in the West that are solidified right now. They're not moving around, but as far as that 7th and 8th seed, it's up for grabs. I think they might be sneaking in for that 8th, and I don't know. Even the Lakers are out of the playoffs right now.
Right, so it's going to
be interesting for them trying to fight for that last spot of those last 2 spots, because like you said, the Clippers are out of it right now. They're probably around 8th, I think, but 8th or 7th, but they're going to start losing some games now they don't care. They lost their players go. They're starting, so now it's going to open up some spots in there for the Kings to jump in, and I'm excited for them, especially Harrison Barnes. I feel like the trade to Dallas was very hyped up, like, oh, what is Dallas going to do with him,
right.
And then I don't think he really fit in their system, so it's nice that he gets essentially another start over here and a good start to see what he can do with this young team.
Yeah, Barnes isn't necessarily a first option like he was being looked to in Dallas, at least until Luka got there. And I think here, obviously, he's probably going to be behind Fox. He's probably going to be behind Buddy Hield. And I think it'll be much better for him. He'll be able to fit into this system a lot more. And I like Bagley, too. I just think the fact that he was picked before Luka is always going to haunt him. I don't think he was a bad player, but, the Kings would rather have Luka as the rest of the NBA would, because he's on fire right now. So, Kings contending. Now, let's talk about our 2 teams a little bit. And I think let's leave with the Magic, because the Magic made the bigger move. Yeah. The Magic have been point guard starved recently. Obviously, DJ Augustine, your starting point guard. And so you guys made a trade for Markelle Fultz. And that deal was Fultz for Jonathan Simmons, who, whatever. Yeah. Protected first-round pick. I believe is top 20 protected for the Thunder's pick. And a second-rounder. So not too big. And how do you feel?
At first, I was like, I saw the headlines, so saw the leak of the news.
Yep.
I wanted to know what they were giving up, and after seeing what they gave up, that first round pick, I don't think it was worth it, but I'm not all mad at it people are like, oh, why did we get Fultz? We're like trying to invest in this player, and then he might not turn out to be good and whatnot. But I think it's a great move. It's worth the risk. I think it's low risk, high reward kind of situation because you essentially get a 20-year-old lottery pick for Simmons, who didn't really fit in our system.
Yeah, the number one former overall pick.
Yeah, so I remember when they got Jonathan Simmons. He had 20 good games for the Spurs. He was playing some good defense, scoring, averaging 20 points for that stretch. And the Magic, let's go out and pick him out. He could be the star of our franchise.
Right.
And then he didn't really fit in our franchise, and he was just riding our bench this season essentially. So then we weren't using him. So I think the Magic really invested in Markel Fultz and believe his shooting mystery of why he lost his shot will be debunked, and they believe it's related to his injury. He'll improve within the organization, and I think it's a win-win for both Markel Fultz and the Magic, because Fultz was not going to be able to grow in a team like the Sixers when they're championship contenders right now. They're looking to be aggressive. He wasn't going to have playing time, able to develop as a player and get out of this funk he was in with his shooting. So I think it's good for the Magic and it's good for Markel Fultz, and I'm excited. I hope because he has that talent in him. I don't believe you lose your talent.
Yeah.
And he was once a lottery pick, first round pick. So I think he's 20 years old. People are acting like he's 25, and he's only 20 years old.
It's only a second year.
Yeah, he's only 20 years old, so he has a lot of time to develop, and hopefully the Magic organization has patience with him, because that's what they need, and they don't give up on him and let him go like the other stars.
I agree. So, and I think on a guard-starved team, like I said, for the Magic, it makes a lot of sense. And I know the Magic are hanging around the playoff race right now, but I think it would make more sense for them probably to miss near. And there's not a lot of pressure. I know the fan base is kind of obviously they want playoffs, but just with the team, especially with Mo Bamba just going out and being injured now. So, no matter how much Nikola Vucevic wants them to make the playoffs. So, I think it was a good move as well. The first-round pick, it's questionable. I don't know who you're bidding against, so who knows? Maybe there was another deal that had a first-round pick that the Sixers were entertaining. Stuff we don't really get to find out. Yeah. But I like it for the Magic. I think it's a good move.
They needed a guard.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Something to build upon. I can't really say the same for the Pistons.
Oh yeah, how do you feel about the moves the Pistons made?
So they made a couple trades, right? They made a Reggie Bullock trade, who was a starter for us, which shows how crappy the Pistons wing rotation is. And they traded him for a second round pick. And this guy from Kansas who's a sharpshooter, second year, I won't pronounce his name because it's just not going to go well. I liked him at Kansas, though. I mean, whatever, it's fine. They also participated in the trade. They traded Stanley Johnson, finally. We talked about off air about that. Just Stanley Johnson's I'm tired of him. He can't even start. Now it's his fourth year, and he can't start over a second round pick from last year. So got Thon Maker back. I haven't gotten to watch a Pistons game yet, since we're in Florida, obviously, not the local stuff. So I like that move at least, but I figured they were getting under the luxury tax line, because that's what they did, to trade for Mike Conley. And then I was in lab during the trade deadline. I was ready. You texted me about the Markel Fultz deal, so a couple on that, and I was like, oh, the Pistons did nothing. So, like we just talked before this, they're in the 8th seed right now. They're tied with the Heat for the 8th seed. They got Wayne Ellington in the buyout market, which is good because they need wings. I would have given away Andre Drummond, who is still owed 2 years, $55 million, or Reggie Jackson, $18 million next year for coke, because they just make me
so
mad. Drummond leads Drummond leads the league in rebounds, but it's just okay, just it's not really useful. It's not useful. Reggie Jackson's ass. It's infuriating because they have Blake. Blake's playing out of his mind. And there's no 3-point shooters there to help him. There's no, rim running center. Drummond's not really athletic, so it's just kind of. They're going to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll win a game against the Bucks. Giannis might just drop 55 every game, and it's just kind of tough because Kennard hasn't developed yet, and he was picked right before Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, still stabs my heart all the time. I bring it up all the time because I'm not going to get over it ever. So, I mean, Pistons are the Pistons.
Yeah, I agree. I think if anything, they were one of the biggest losers of this trade deadline because they didn't really put themselves in any position to add players to
Oh my goodness, it's that bad.
make that push for that playoff run because they're in the position where, like you said, they're right now they're in the playoffs, but they need to keep being aggressive, and I don't know. It's gonna be tough, so we'll see. They definitely need to make a lot of big moves in the offseason to, especially like we said, the East is getting more powerful. If they want to stay relevant or even become relevant in the East, they gotta make big moves.
You know what was a victory though? There were rumors earlier on in the season before he got hurt that the Pistons were going to trade for John Wall.
Oof.
The John Wall that is owed $40 million a year for the next 3 years and got hurt walking around his house towards Achilles again. So that was a good move. So now that I'm thoroughly depressed about the Pistons, let's play our game. This game, debut, is Would You Rather. And obviously Would You Rather could be interesting. I went with not options that won't be like a fifth grade Would You Rather. So we're gonna do this, and you're gonna tell me what you would rather do.
Okay, let's do it.
Would you rather have the power to put people in awkward situations or remove yourself from awkward situations?
Easy, remove myself from awkward
Really?
situations.
Okay.
That is so easy. I can't think of how many times I've been in awkward situations, and I wish I could just like take myself out of it.
Yeah.
Easily.
So I feel like this has to be, at least for me, what's truly awkward is when I'm there between like three people and everyone's getting mad at each other, and I'm just like, guys, we need to chill, kind of thing. So I agree with you from that point.
Disappear now.
Exactly, just literally just vanish. So I agree with you that one. This one's good. Teleport randomly once a year to literally anywhere on the planet, or be stuck in 6-hour traffic once a year on a random day.
Okay, so the thing with this, when you're being teleported randomly once a year, how long are you stuck there for?
I think you're just there.
They're
I think
just
you
there
have to
for
find
the
a way.
year?
I think you have to find a way back.
Okay, then I'll do that one. I'll teleport randomly once a year to literally anywhere.
I agree.
Because that's an adventure. It means I hate traffic.
I agree. So Ohio people know this. This is my breakdown. Living in 3 different states. Michigan people just drive really fast. They're insane. You're not driving 95. You get looked at a bit ridiculously. Ohio's very slow, which leads to a lot of traffic and frustration for me. Florida people are just stupid.
Yeah, they're so stupid.
So Ohio, like my Ohio people that are downloading this, understand being in slow traffic like that is frustrating and makes no sense. I'd rather teleport randomly once a year. I would get the little map thing that you can scratch off and it looks all pretty. I'd do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's an adventure.
Really exactly.
Yeah.
Would you rather wear a cape for a month everywhere with no explanation, or wear an eye patch everywhere for a month? I would assume also with no explanation.
Yeah, eye patch. You can make up so many stories with an eye patch.
But there's no explanation. You're not allowed to explain it. So I'm wearing an eye patch.
I mean, but like the thing that I meant, like you can like get so many like stories drawn from that. Like people be like, oh, he probably has an eye patch because something that happened to his eye. But if you wear a cape around, people are like, what is this?
What's going on?
They're gonna think you have some sort of like, I don't know,
like superhero complex.
Yeah, they're gonna like, what is this guy? They're gonna think you're weird. But if you wear an eye patch, they might think you're weird, but they also might think like, who's this badass?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, you had something happen to your eye. Yeah. You're just like, yeah, sure. I'm not explaining that. Then but you're just answering.
Assuming.
Yeah. This might be the best one. Would you rather fight Mike Tyson once, or talk like him for the rest of your life?
That is a good one. That's tough. I always I have a friend who lives in New York. We always send each other those Mike Tyson memes where they're like the TH and
it's the funniest thing ever. How he talks. Yeah, if you haven't heard Mike Tyson talk, please go listen. Like there'll be something on YouTube.
If you'll find some memes, some YouTube videos, it's the funniest thing ever. That's tough. I think I would fight Mike Tyson.
I would too.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where you were going to go. I would fight him too because the fight, I can't fight. I've never really taken any classes or anything like that. It'd be 10 seconds. I wouldn't remember it.
Yeah.
I would get nice hospital treatment, and then that's it. It's done.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I feel like Mike Tyson, he can continue talking like this, and he's famous, so he doesn't. Right,
but if I show up somewhere trying to meet professors talking like Mike Tyson, I'm just gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking?"
Such a disability for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you're famous like Mike Tyson, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's fine. It's part of his image. Would you rather be able to stop time or fly?
Stop time.
I think stopping time would be really... A lot of people would be like, oh, I want to fly. It's like,
What are you gonna do?
You have an airplane.
Yeah,
like,
you have an airplane. Like, I don't think it's like you're. That's a good point. Growing up, you're like, oh, what's one superpower you would have?
Everyone says to fly.
To fly, I'm like, I mean, you have an airplane. What are you gonna? You're flying somewhere that doesn't really do anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So I would also do the stop time because it's like we have nothing in the world that can stop time. Also, I just think time's a man-made creation. And really, are you stopping time or not? So that's maybe for the physics spin-off podcast. I'm just saying, time is a man construct. Anyway, last one. You mentioned a friend in New York. I wonder what he would say about this. Would you rather have a Texas accent and live in New York, or a New York accent and live in Texas?
Have a Texas accent and live in New York.
I agree completely.
I feel like having a New York accent and living in Texas, you're gonna get
shot.
Yeah,
you are going to get shot. I haven't been to either place, but I'm just this is completely the perception. Texas. I'm sorry, no one's downloaded from Texas yet, so I think we're okay.
No, but even like I don't know, New York. Some people might be like, oh, that's cool. He's trendy or something. I don't know. He has that cowboy accent, they'll say. Like.
Right. I mean, in here, like, if I hear someone with a southern accent, there's not a lot of people who have them here, but it's just like, oh, okay. Like, whatever. Like, cool. But it's not, it's not the same as,
Yeah, they'll be like, who's in Texas? Like you said, they'll get shot.
Exactly. Okay. We're right about the time where we like to tell the story. So the story, we were trying to think of one right before this, because we didn't really prepare that while thinking about that. There was a time early last year, about a year ago, probably roughly. I went over your house. It may or may not have been the first time or one of the first few times I went over your house. We were getting closer. We weren't close yet, and you almost broke my arm.
Yeah, I almost broke your arm or gave you a concussion. So
something like that.
Some little background information. So yeah, I think it might have been one of the at least I don't know if it's the first one or one of the first times you came over to my house. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so at my house, I live in like an area where there's a lot of open land and lots and whatnot, and we have I guess you can call it a farm with lambs.
Yes,
that's close by, and we were on this. What would you call it?
It's almost like a gator thing, but like if you ever watch football and you see when someone gets injured and they have the open back. That thing, like a go-kart with a back, basically, I'd say. So I was sitting in the back.
Yeah, so Zach was sitting in the back, some other people, and I was like being aggressive with it, trying to spin out of my house and like get to the location where we had the lambs, and I nipped the pillar like by my gate. Yep. And I completely like broke off the gate sensor. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I broke up the gate sensor that was by my gate, and like the gate was not functional for like a week or so. But more importantly, I almost took out Zach's arm.
So I think the best part too of this is that I have a video of this because I was sending a video to Katie, just showing like where like just a funny thing like, hey, we're chilling, you know, it's cool up in here, and then all of a sudden you just hear a crash and go ah, and then like you see the phone fall out of the thing, and it's kind of cool like that. Yeah, it was only a couple bruises though. It wasn't too bad.
I was freaked out. I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? Yeah,
like I just hurt this
but
little.
Like Zach said, it was one of his first time there. He's like, I never want to come back here anymore.
And I've been back very many times since.
Good thing.
And now we're close, and we're gonna get a house next year together. Yeah. It's gonna be great.
Hopefully everything's gonna happen.
Yeah. So you can fight through almost injuries and stuff like that. And you're not a bad driver.
Have you talked about your injury?
I mentioned it on Katie's podcast episode.
Good.
Yeah, it's rough, but I'm not a weenie.
No, but yeah.
Sal, thank you for coming on.
Of course, Zach. I enjoyed coming on here, talking some NBA for a bit. Hopefully you have me on again later on in the season.
Oh,
playoffs, that would be a good playoff preview.
Before the playoffs, we'll have a nice
for that one.
We'll have a preview. Yeah, definitely. NBA never sleeps, apparently. So, see you then.
See ya. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Assist Podcast. If you like the show, go drop a 5-star rating. That really helps us keep the show going. If you want to stay updated with all the podcast episodes, hit the subscribe button, and also go follow our Twitter, which is @assist_podcast, and our Instagram, which is now the Assist Podcast. And you can write any emails, any suggestions you have to theassistpod@yahoo.com, and we'll see you next week.